See, fundamentally, when you are in charge of a team, the one thing that you have to be is consistent. And number two, true to the value system. Philips is an extraordinary company. It's 130 years old. And they've essentially shaped so many technology waves, right? I mean, the flat screen TV came from Philips. The cassette player came from Philips. The CD-ROM came from Philips and so on, right? Unfortunately, the conglomerates are never rewarded for being complicated. The simpler you are, the street loves you more. So Philips has actually divested everything, and today we only do healthcare, right? The CEO firmly believes that artificial intelligence can be used to transform anything, R&D, product development, anything, right? And they talk to their CEO peers, and somebody says, "Oh, BMW has done this, or somebody has done it." So the message comes saying we also should do it. The CFO, on the other hand, says the impact of AI. Where do I actually see it in my P&L statement? You talk about so much time savings. I don't see that translating into productivity cost savings. So why should I fund it? We kind of get caught in the middle of the CEO, CFO, and I sincerely believe that in Philips we have technology Disneyland. The latest technology that the world has is there. So there's a clear opportunity for the employees to work on the latest and the greatest.
Thank you, Gopal sir, for coming. Welcome to Atomic Conversations.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No, we are delighted to have you. We are proud to have you. I wanted to start with a slightly larger question. GE, Cisco, Philips, brands that have shaped our lives, and everybody has been connected to them in some sort of way or the other. Give us your leadership philosophy. That's why I said I'll start larger.
Yeah. Well, I have a few guiding principles that I follow and then obviously pass on to the teams that are in my organization. I think the first one is don't worry about something that you don't control and lose sleep over it. That's number one. I think number two is for everything there is a business reason. For every decision, for every action that you take, there is a business rationale behind it. You really need to understand what that is. And what I mean by that is, if somebody were to say something, your logical question is, so what? And you keep asking, so what, until you actually get to a business outcome. And I don't let up until I get to that. And it's in Japan, they say 7 times you've got to ask the question, why, right? It's something along those lines. So to me, I think that's important. Third one is surround yourself with people who are smarter than yourself, because that's a nice way to do it. And number two, if they are successful, by default you are considered a success. So you kind of go with that. I also mentioned the fact that communication, I believe, is the number one skill that everybody needs to. It's a lifetime learning. You can never become perfect in communication. And then your prioritization and your sequencing is very important. You start with the organization, then you the customer, then you put the organization, then you put your team, and then yourself.
Understood.
And that order, you never get it out of sequence. You do the right thing for the customer, you're doing the right thing for your organization. If you do the right thing for your organization, you're doing the right thing for your team, and so on down to yourself. And I think at the end of the day, what we do is just a job. Okay, don't take it too seriously. It's not a matter of life and death, and the world moves on, and the sun rises tomorrow. And don't overthink your importance. You're not that indispensable.
Yes, thank you for the wake-up call. But thank you for this. At least at least one of these is something that I've thought about. I don't know where I heard it, but putting the customer first and is something that I have heard, and I think it's very, once you have something like that, makes decisions very easy, especially when you're taking a bunch of them like you are. Slight tangent, I hadn't written this question down, but I have to ask you this question. Your idea of how to build a good team, across, also you're building across geographies, and you also know how difficult it is to actually build a coherent, extremely high functioning org structure. How would you say is is a good way to build a team?
Well, I think you've got to do all the G's. right? The generations, the geography, the gender, all that is a given. I mean, those are common foundations that you need to have.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's about picking people who you think have the ability to work well together. Once you become part of a team, it's no longer about you, right? I mean, even a simple thing like when I look at somebody's career, your career is usually divided into 3 parts. The first part of your career, you write your performance appraisal and you use the word I. I did this, I did this, I did this. It's great. You get to the second third of your career, you're generally leading a team or you're influencing other people. You never use the word I. You say, we did this, right? The I is a given. That's why you're at that level.
Yes.
And then the third part of your career, you're not talking about I or we, you're talking about the organization. Philips did this, Atomicwork did this, or GE did this, and so on. And I think when you're building a team, you need to actually start thinking a little bit along those lines. When somebody is early in career, you've got to give them the leeway to beat themselves on the chest and say, I did this. But after a while, it kind of gets a little difficult. So it's more understanding the nuances of age groups and what motivates people. I completely believe that an inclusive team is a sustainable competitive advantage. The more inclusive you are, the more you're open to suggestions and ideas, the better off you are. And I also believe that you've got to hire people who have high intellectual curiosity, because that's what makes the team stronger.
Yeah, I mean, this is learning for me. It's just a question I wanted to ask, so it's not something I even wrote down. In all these years, like, is there like, I don't know, like even 1 or 2 instances, like whatever you might want to say, Gopal sir, about, small principles that will keep a team close?
See, fundamentally, when you are in charge of a team or you are responsible for a group of individuals, the one thing that you have to be is consistent. And number 2, true to the value system. Now, you cannot manage everybody on your team the same way. That's where situational leadership comes in. And so somebody is motivated by money, somebody is motivated by the challenge of the job, somebody is motivated by maybe an international assignment. It can be anything, right? So you can't apply the same things to everybody. However, never do you compromise on your core values. And the more transparent you can be with your team members, the fewer problems you will face later on. You cannot be viewed as somebody who's phony, who says one thing here and one thing here.
Yeah.
No. But as long as you stick to your values, the messaging can be different.
Understood.
But the core values are never compromised. To me, I think that's a very, very key thing in managing people. Because people, by definition, everyone is different. And they're all marching to the tune of or the beat of a different drum. But you keep your core principles and core values straight. And I've always been brought up by being told that when you speak the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. That's how you lead the team. You don't have to remember.
Perfect. Makes sense. Certainly something I will use. I wanted to talk about, Philips and, it's been a brand I have loved. Like, I don't know, like my parents used to have like a bunch of things and like I have a couple of things from it. And like, it's a brand that's touched people across. And like, but it has so many, verticals, so many things going on and like geographies and so on. How do you like keep track of everything? Like, it's just so much.
Well, now it's a little easier.
Okay.
See, Philips has been an extraordinary company. It's 130 years old. And pretty much in every corner of the world, wherever you go, people will know Philips. And they've essentially shaped so many technology waves, right? I mean, the flat screen TV came from Philips, the cassette player came from Philips.
I had both.
The CD-ROM came from Philips, and so on, right? You can go on and on. Unfortunately, the way the conglomerates were, the conglomerates are never rewarded for being complicated. No, the simpler you are, the street loves you more. So Philips
Yes.
has actually divested everything. And today we only do healthcare,
yeah.
right? So consumer electronics is gone. It's branded as Versuni. Lighting is gone as Signify. Of course, we sold ASML, which I don't think was a good idea, but they're doing very well. But all those products continue to be sold as Philips for
Yes.
15 years because
Yes.
that's part of the separation, right? But the fact is, this is a company that prides innovation and customer focus, and more importantly, it's a company with, our colors are blue, so we call it the blue heart of Philips. They genuinely care about people, and now our mission is to positively impact the lives of 2.5 billion people around the world by 2030. And because we are healthcare, I tell my staff that I never want us to see our products.
Yeah.
Because if you see our products, you're either lying on the operating room theater
Yeah.
or in an ICU, and we certainly don't want that. But because of who we were and where we are coming from, it's a very complicated organization. Lots of decision makers, lots of business units around the world, lots of really complex processes in a highly regulated industry. We really can't take healthcare lightly, and I earlier mentioned it's not life or death. It is life or death in some cases, right? And so we've got to take the whole notion of patient safety and quality very seriously. And therefore we put patient safety and quality as fundamental to everything that we do. We cannot ever compromise that. Number two, because we are a regulated industry, we have to take privacy and all of that very, very seriously, security, privacy, and so on. And third, because we are also global, we've got to make sure that everything that we do can scale and deliver. So all our actions kind of pivot around those 3 or 4 dimensions. And when you actually hear stories from our employees about their family members being treated using Philips gear, that's when the purpose of the company hits you hard.
Yeah.
And you really feel good that you're
Yes.
working for a company that makes a difference.
Yes, absolutely. Leading, like the question sort of like, comes from there itself, Gopal sir. I'm thinking, as an organization like of this much legacy, right, moves into healthcare and takes pride in it, but there's also the challenges of moving into of the organizational challenges of moving into a separate org, of thinking about this across different geographies and different verticals. How did you think about enabling this, for the company?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we are a global organization, and therefore the relevance to customers around the world is paramount. Therefore, we need to have the necessary footprint to make sure that the services or the last mile are totally covered.
Absolutely.
So that our customers, in which case for the IT organization it's our employees, are all covered. That's the first thing you do. Second is, because you need to have a vibrant organization and everybody is interested in job content, it's important for you to balance the capabilities and not have it lopsided in a particular geo, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the entire organization contributes, and you cannot have a scenario where one part of the world does the cool stuff and the other part doesn't do the cool stuff. So you've got to build redundancy. At the same time, you've got to be fair to people. To me, I think those are the 2 simple philosophies. One, get close to customers and deliver what they need. Second, make sure that everybody in your organization has a fair shot at having a good career.
Lovely. But what does it, this is something that I've always been curious about. Like if I was in the IT team, I was in your team.
Sure.
What would the work look like for me, doing all of this?
See, the nice thing is, I sincerely believe that in Philips we have technology Disneyland.
Oh, nice. Lovely.
We've got pretty much all the cool, the latest technology that the world has is there. So there's a clear opportunity for the employees to work on the latest and the greatest.
Awesome.
That's number 1. Number 2 is, I really believe that we've also got a very empowered team, and therefore people can experiment and further their technology knowledge or whatever it is. So we provide them the opportunities to do that. We completely believe in rotating talent and giving them opportunities where it makes sense. So it's basically nothing extraordinary from most companies, but it's something that we have to do.
Understood. And how are you thinking about AI, Gopal sir? I think the fundamentals never change. I mean, we always know that, but there is new technology, and there is we have to sort of like go on, at least like adopt it. You don't have to be an early adopter, but you have to adopt it at certain points, right? How are you thinking about it, and like what are your large level thoughts when that that revolution came about?
See, for us, it's about cautious optimism. Okay? Now, Philips as a company has been doing AI for a long time. Almost all the products that we sell to hospitals, our MRIs and X-rays, they all have software in them, and they all have algorithms in them. So AI in products has been there for a very long time, and so that is something that we are pretty good at. Now, this whole world of generative AI and agentic AI is relatively new.
Yes.
Now, the first criterion is to be very, very careful about where you use it. First, is there a need to use artificial intelligence?
Absolutely.
Or can we use natural intelligence to solve the problem? You make that determination and don't try to force fit AI into every situation. That's number one. Number two is, fundamentally there's a disconnect between the CEO and CFO of any company. The CEO firmly believes that artificial intelligence can be used to transform anything. R&D, product development, anything, right? And they talk to their CEO peers, and somebody says, oh, BMW has done this, or somebody has done it. So the message comes saying, we also should do it.
Yes.
The CFO, on the other hand, says, the impact of AI, where do I actually see it in my P&L statement? You talk about automating a lot of things. I don't see people being taken out. You talk about so much time savings. I don't see that translating into productivity, cost savings, etc. So why should I fund it? So we kind of get caught in the middle of the CEO, CFO, and that's where I borrow a phrase from saying from India, that when two elephants fight, the grass gets trampled. When two elephants make love, the grass gets trampled. And IT is the grass, right? So we kind of get stuck between that. But the point is, select use cases carefully and apply generative AI or agentic AI where it makes sense. Number two, ensure that you're driving change management. And even before you did all this, similar to the panel we had today, understand what is the business problem you're trying to solve. And does that really merit the use of AI or not?
Understood.
Most people fail to do that, which is why a lot of these projects fall by the wayside. So if you figure out that this is indeed a problem that can only be solved by AI and that there's value in it, do it.
Yeah. What I'm also thinking is that the same, is it the same way that you would think about just innovation and risk? Or like is GenAI specifically something different that you would?
Well, it's kind of similar, right? It's one of those things. For example, if you're an innovator or an R&D person, you cannot be conservative. Then you are considered a hopeless researcher. You've got to take risks. And 9 out of 10 research projects fail, right?
Understood.
And the one that makes it is the superstar project, right?
Yes.
This is slightly different. It's not, you don't want to have a 9 out of 10 failure. But I think at the end of the day, it is important that we do it, because if we don't do it, our competitors are doing it, then you're going to be left behind. So it's almost like something that you've got to do anyway, because everyone else is doing it.
Yes. One question, like, and this is something from our research across, you spoke about security already, right? Especially in an age where like we are being driven to adopt GenAI, how are you thinking about security? And that's one part, but there's also interoperability, like especially across, this, huge org. Is it the same as you would think about, just change management, or like is?
Well, I mean, first of all, for generative AI, the focus on ethics, security, and good business principles are going to be more important than some of your traditional technology trends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It can get out of hand fairly quickly. So what we have put in place are enterprise guardrails for data, for AI, and for security. And we force the organization to architecturally align with those principles. And we have an architectural review board and a GenAI review board, which actually looks at this and potentially its ramifications on these types of issues. Because like I said, it's a regulated industry, so we can get into some serious trouble, especially when you handle patient information and all of that. So I think we take it more seriously than the normal organization, which sometimes slows us down because we do have to go through quality and regulatory and validation processes before we can actually apply any of this. So it's a little different from most industries. It's also very different from your traditional technologies that we've rolled out with not too much change management.
But I presume, like, even Philips is like obviously a special, a sort of like case in the sense that the legacy plus, dealing with healthcare and so on. But wouldn't you think that even almost any industry should take as much care as well? Like, if not as much, but at least like a little bit of that seriousness should be there?
True. I mean, obviously, it's universally applicable.
Yeah.
I think it's just for us, it's a little more heightened. And obviously now, even more so, with the nationalist agendas around the world, it becomes even harder.
Yes.
So, for example, if let's say you're a patient in Colombo, and how open will you be to having somebody from China or Netherlands monitor you through remote technologies? A lot of people are not, a lot of countries are not very comfortable with those types of paradigms.
Yes.
And that kind of places restrictions on what you can do and what you cannot do. And now data sovereignty issue forces you to have data in country.
In countries, correct. Yes.
On a physical server, right? Those are added complexities. And in healthcare, the rules and regulations are even more stringent, right? So it's crazy. If somebody applies to become an online customer for a personal health business, within 24 hours, you've got to follow up with that person personally to confirm certain things.
Yes.
If you don't do that, it's a violation. So,
yeah, I get it, but that it's almost always it almost like heightens the point in the sense that you have to have these guardrails, you have to have these things fully cleared out as you adopt even more. We were doing some research, Gopal sir, and one of the things that you've spoken about and you're passionate about is self-healing, autonomous systems, and you've spoken about them being the next frontier. And what does that look like in practice at at Philips?
Yeah, I mean it's a long way away for the simple reason that I don't think the world has evolved yet. It's not quite the same as a Tesla.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a little more complicated than that. And what we are ultimately trying to get to is an autonomous infrastructure, which basically looks at self-diagnosis, self-healing, and self-operating. Now, earlier, back in those days, we used to talk about sensors being deployed at various levels of the infrastructure stack to gather information and send it out so that these things can happen. Now, the agentic AI world needs to kind of replace that. And obviously, we can have a series of agents doing a number of things. But the key thing to remember is we need to actually get an inventory first, because these agents can kind of counter each other and be destructive.
Yes.
So we've got to first figure out where the opportunities are and who is doing what, and then get into this mode of an agentic AI. And even from an organizational standpoint, I do believe that in the future, an organizational structure will have, I may have 20 people reporting to me and 20 agents reporting to me.
Wow.
Right? So it's a very complex existence at that point. An agent may be responsible for a certain part of the autonomous process, But then there's the contextual part that the human being may have to step
Yeah.
in as well. So,
Yeah.
but we are a long way away from
Yes.
realizing that.
Yes. The reason also that we were listening to something that some talk of yours in which you've spoken about this, and it was probably the most interesting thing that I've heard in like a while in healthcare, and I was like, I have to talk to Gopal sir about this. Like this is something more related, down to us, like in Atomicwork and and with IT teams. Like when with the eruption of AI, with so many new things happening, what does modern IT service design look to you? I'll give you a little bit of context. Like in the sense, we were so used to substandard employee service, right? We are okay, like when we talk to customer care, we expect things like this has to be a certain way. Why aren't you talking to me properly? Like we need to, I have an SLA and I need this done and so on. But in organizations, we're always very okay with it. Okay, like, this will come when it comes and so on. But it has transpired that people now want the same experience.
Yeah.
Like, and like, because we are now more vocal and we have like, we are more knowledgeable as well. And we see that these systems are available. But so therefore, what does this sort of like modern approach or modern IT service design look like to you?
Yeah. See, it's a very challenging thing to accomplish. It's wonderful to think like that in a green field, where you don't have any legacy, any history.
Yes.
And you can start from scratch. Your design thinking and
Absolutely.
start with a clean sheet of paper, as
Yeah.
they say, and the art of what's possible.
Yes.
It's very easy to design it that way.
Yeah.
But it's also an expensive way, for the simple reason that nothing exists, so you do that from scratch.
Yeah.
I'm yet to see a single organization where employee experience and user experience is awesome. And why is that? It's simply because the world that we live in enterprise IT, is extremely complicated and too many dependencies on other things. There's a lot of old ways of working and a lot of people whose mindsets haven't evolved. And a lot of people may be scared by the introduction of new technologies. And you put all this together, it's extremely difficult to really achieve world-class experiences. You may do it in pockets, but what the employee is asking for is an end-to-end experience that is incredible,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Now, it's a very nice utopian concept and it's very idealistic. And my response to those employees always is, is your world perfect to begin with for you to expect perfection from us? And almost always the answer is no. So I tell them, there's only so much we can do. There are constraints, right? There are budgetary constraints, there are legacy problems, decommissioning issues, unwillingness to change, etc. So you can achieve it in pockets, but the end-to-end experience is still a long way to go.
Yeah.
Unless, like I said, you're doing it from scratch.
Yeah.
Then you can knock it out of the park.
Yeah. Understood.
Right away.
Yeah, understood. But do you think like available technology makes it like new technology makes it slightly easier than before?
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it does. I mean, the newer technologies are very intuitive and obviously empower the user, and you can kind of shape
Yes.
what you want it to be. The challenge is bringing all the pieces together and integrating them at scale and making it work for 100 countries, 100,000 employees, and all that is a challenge, right? But that doesn't mean we should not try.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
That's completely the challenge. Okay, so like I had a couple of like last questions. Like one is that the podcast has been going on for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of like a significant sort of like listener demographic is IT leaders or prospective IT leaders, aspirational IT leaders early in their careers, right? With your journey and like you're seeing a world that's changing, that's changing is like a mild word for like people, everything shifting under their feet. What advice would you give for like aspirational leaders and people who are like 5 years, 10 years into their roles, and like what should they do? What should they learn? How should they go on to the next level? What should they do about growth?
Yeah, I think the first thing I always tell people is never chase titles, never chase money, and never chase organizations, because most of those are not within your control, right? And it just generally leaves you with a sense of unhappiness. That's the word,
Okay.
right? So that's something that get it out of your system. Stuff happens, right? That's number one. Number two is, especially in the world that we live in today, constantly reinventing yourself, upskilling yourself, demonstrating that intellectual curiosity, and learning, continuous learning. To me, I think that's more important than anything else. Leadership is not just about managing people. Okay? Leadership is about influencing a wider spectrum of topics. People is one of them, technology can be one, customers can be another, and so on. And leadership is essentially thinking about tomorrow. Management is thinking about today. So if you really are aspiring to be a leader, you should be forward looking. I mean, frankly, when you drive a car, the front mirror, the windshield is in front of you, the rear view mirror is so small.
Yeah.
That's because we shouldn't be focused on the rear view, right? And that's what it is. I think at the end of the day, be forward looking, make yourself the most skilled professional you can become, and fundamentally look for something tomorrow.
Yeah.
And don't worry about these titles and money and all of that. You do things right, they will follow. I mean, for most people, they do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the point is, don't get into this sense of entitlement, saying I've done this for 5 years, therefore I should be a manager. I've done this for 15 years, therefore I should be a director. No, it doesn't work that way. There are always going to be hundreds of people smarter than you.
Yeah.
Learn how to work with them and how to learn from them. And frankly, the older you get, the more you need to learn from the youngsters, right? Because that's the way of the future. And ultimately you do all of that, and you'll be fine. And the other things are all a given, like your values and your integrity and your ethics and all of that. That goes without saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things in in what you said struck me immediately. One is the reinvention that you have to do each time, and looking forward rather than looking backward. Like basically keeping that forward movement and momentum. I'm just repeating it to myself so that it goes at least like I remember it. For a while. I'll probably write it down as well. I think that I remember things better that way. Like last question, and like something that I'm very interested in, like learning. If you have any recommendations for a couple of books, or like any amount of them, like that you should not necessarily like related to like IT or anything, but like anything.
See, recommending a book or two is always a challenge because everyone's tastes are very different.
Yes, true.
Right? But to me, it's not about a book or anything like that. Constant reading makes you a better person.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, some people read better from books, some people read better online, etc. So it's really a question of spending time during the day for yourself on something new that you can read, right? It can be humor, it can be a review of a movie, it could be a technology white paper, it could be anything, right? I think at the end of the day, it's about that habit of reading about things, and I'm not talking about the Instagrams.
Yeah, not that.
Real reading.
Absolutely.
But I think that is very important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I know, like, there's so much that we can learn from you, but I'm very glad we had this conversation. Thank you, Gopal sir. Thank you for gracing us with your.
No, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.